Hello, it's Dr. Darnise, and I'm coming on to give a message of encouragement to someone, I hope. Hey, if you are over 40, over 50, even early 60s, it is not too late to start over. It's not too late to pivot. The thing is, you got to be willing to take a chance on yourself. Now, of course, we've all been told, like, you should have yourself together, right? You should have yourself together by the time you're, 40 at the latest, right? Because then that's middle age and you should have it together. The thing is about having it together is knowing when, you know what, this is not what I wanted. Is this the house that I meant to build? Is this the corporate ladder that I wanted to climb? Is this the life that I always wanted? What happens now when you actually have time to reflect upon yourself and you do that and you realize, I have been chasing other people's dreams. I have been living into other people's expectations, my whole life. And then you wake up. Fortunately, if you have relative youth, health, energy, you still have ideas about what you can do. Let me tell you, it is not too late to start over. How do I know? I've started over a couple times in my life. I have moved across the country last summer. It's been about a year now that I'm in Georgia. I have picked up my whole life and moved from LA and moved to Savannah, Georgia. And why did I do that? People ask me all the time, why did you go to Atlanta? I didn't want to go to Atlanta. I came to Savannah because I wanted to be in Savannah. And it is a small city, it is a beautiful city, and I really appreciate and relish a small city. I have lived in the big cities. I've lived in LA, I've lived in San Francisco Bay Area, I have lived in New York. I have lived in Dallas. I have been around the block a time or two, right? My first career was in fashion. That's why I was in New York in the early 90s. And I did not enjoy that, I must say. I did enjoy being in New York. I mean, it's fun to be, young 20 something and you're, in New York. That's fun. But the fashion industry, that was not fun, right? And so my first pivot was to recognize that, I made a decision when I was a teenager to major in fashion. A teenager, we ask teenagers, what do you want to be when you grow up? And choose a major in college. You're a teenager and you make that decision. And then by the time you're maybe your late 20s, you feel like you're a failure if that wasn't exactly the right choice. You've gotten out of school, maybe you start your job, and you're like, this is not what I expected at all. And then people feel like a failure. Now they call it a quarter life crisis. When I was going through it in the 90s, there was no word for it. You just felt like, I don't know what's going on with my life. My point is, you can pivot at any time. So I pivoted in my late 20s. I pivoted again in my early 40s. And I'm pivoting again now that I am in my mid 50s. Yes, mid 50s. Look, God has been good. The ancestors have been good. Okay. And I want you to know that too for yourselves, is that yes, it takes a plan. Yes, it takes some strategizing. Yes, it is helpful to have a community of people who understand you, who get what you're doing. But let me tell you something, it may not be your family. It may not be your closest friends. They don't necessarily get why you seem to be uprooting your whole life and getting ready to do something else like move across the country, right? Especially, they've never known you to make such a big change. And people are going to come with their own fears and their own, doubt and project it upon you. And, mostly people care, they're concerned that you're going to, hit the wall, or you're going to, wind up homeless, or, that it's all going to go wrong. People are concerned for you that it's all going to go wrong. But if it's your desire to start over, maybe you realize now is the time to do it because I do have relative youth and health. And if there was ever a time when I was going to leave my job and do something else that I've always wanted to do, something creative, something artistic, you wanted to start a business, you wanted to do something online, you want to start your own YouTube channel, there's something else that you've been wanting to do, when else would you do it? Are you really going to consider yourself at 40, 45, 50, 55 to be too old and you're just going to coast the rest of your life? Listen, people are living longer, right? We know this. you could conceivably live to be, 100 really, but let's just say 80s, 90s. That's another 80, that's another 40 or 50 years. So you mean to tell me what you've done in the first half of your life, most of which you were a child or half of which you were a child, you can't switch? You can't make a change? I'm telling you, you can. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, one thing, like I said, you do need an exit plan. It is helpful. It does make sense to really start planning your way out, creating an exit strategy. So if you have a job, a long career, figure out, how much money do I have in my retirement, or, how much money am I going to need? You start looking at your numbers, whatever those are. You start looking at your numbers and figuring out how you can make it work. What can you do to supplement? If you pick up and move, can you make a transfer with your company? Can you, start over in another job in another city? Whatever it is personal to you. But what you do need is the exit strategy. So what I do is I work with Black women over 40, right at midlife, to help us get our minds right around making big moves and changes. It's not everybody who's going to pick up and move, right, from one city to another across the country. That's not necessarily everybody's goal. But it might be that you want to retire early from your job so that you can start something creative, start that business that you always wanted to start. Maybe now your children are, pretty much self-sufficient as older teens. Maybe they're, out the house. They have their own home now. And now what? You're an empty nester, or you're soon to be an empty nester. And if you soon are, this is a great time to start planning it. This is not about, oh, I must have failed, and so now I'm starting over from zero. You're not starting over from zero. You're starting over from experience. So oh, this is what I need to do. I'm creating a foundation for myself. And frankly, nothing is guaranteed. No one can come along. I can't come along and tell you you are 100% going to have, you're going to be a millionaire in the, next 50 years of living. No one can promise that. But what I can say is you'll be happy because you'll be pursuing those things that you wanted to pursue, and you'll be authentic. You'll be saying to yourself, you know what? It was worth it. Yes, it might have been bumpy from time to time. It was bumpy moving across the country, as you might imagine, packing up my life and moving from LA to Savannah, Georgia. It was bumpy. But you know what? It's worth it because you're worth it. So what I do is work with women at midlife, and I help them create exit strategies. I help them get their mind right around what they do want, what they don't want, and their risk tolerance, and help them figure out what is up for me now. What do I even want? And I start all my clients with the question, who are you and what do you want now? And you may think, oh, well, wait, think about that question, because most people I ask really don't have an answer to it. Who are you? What do you want right now? Most people don't. Most people tell me what they do for a living. Well, who am I? Well, I'm a mother, I'm a, nurse, or I'm a teacher. No, I'm not asking what you do or what you have done as a job. I'm asking who you are. How do you see yourself in the next 30, 40 years? So we start working on that. We start working on that and planning it out in such a way where it can become your reality. Well, listen, I wanted to come on here and just give you a little nugget to remind you, yes, you can make big changes. You can start over if need be at 40, 50, right? Early 60s, because you still have an idea that you can, right? And if you still have, like I said, health, you can do it. So I'm going to invite you to join me in my program, Reclaiming Our Time. It is a coaching and creative club. So I'm going to put the link. You can find out all about it in the description box, and that will invite you to watch a little video, find out more information about who I am and, what we do. And after that, we can decide if we want to work together. But it's not a big scary thing to have a conversation about it. It's not, no one's going to force you to do anything, right? It's an assessment of who you are, what you want now, and how you might even get it. I mean, isn't that exciting? How could I actually live it? How could I walk in my purpose? How could I put down this heavy cape, right? How can I stop being the strong Black woman for other people? Take off this cape and live the way I've been wanting to live all these years, okay? Let's do that. So again, in the description box, blackwomenatmidlife.com. Bye for now.